Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we're going to be checking out another 3 tracks from an act named Sodia, the first of these titled Ugly. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen on Spotify, the first of these. We're going to be checking out another 2. This is off of the Sodia's upcoming album titled The Grey Sea, and we're going to listen through each of these tracks from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. This track, I should note, feels Michael Wernick on the vocals, so let's go. Interesting rotary effect on those guitars, very grunge. I mean, like, there's a lot of variation with the drums, which is quite exciting. The guitar riff at this point is emotionally undecided, though there's a bit of an ominous feel to it. I like the sing-song to the talky vocals as well. There's a bit of nuance there. I mean, like, it's nice to have the distorted guitar come in to really sort of build things up and you know, literally and figuratively amplify them. There's a lot more drama and intensity with the distorted guitars, and the vocals kind of rise up, and a bit more of the kind of vocal fry-ish extra kind of oomph from that main part as well is quite good. I think that this is a conversation someone's having about their issues with themselves. I think the verse sections are talking to themselves about their own sort of self-image and stuff like that. And then the verse part is like, look away, you know, like about like other people telling them to look away.
Just to feel like shit. Take these happy pills. They keep you ready to say. Can't go to sleep tonight. Just hold on a bit longer. Take one step back and look at the mirror. Treasures found. Rich people are looking for poor people. Laughing to be nice. Scarf off my feelings. Take these happy pills. They'll keep you happy. They say.
And just that dynamic range going into that chorus is just a massive build there. I really appreciate the juxtaposition dynamically there. and solo with pentatonics. It's interesting, like the guitars vary a little bit with the production. Like I could hear just coming into that off of the guitar solo, which I think was very well eloquently voiced, by the way. It works well within the genre, had a great presence. It was a nice sort of palate cleanser from the lead vocals. But things move around the stereo field with the guitars.
I'm still tired. Just hold on a bit longer. I'm so tired, but you are greatly desired. Like a butterfly, it's so sweet, but also so ugly. Well, you grow from this. I wanna help you. I want you to please look away. Can't hear what you say. Slip through time. Scream out loud.
What have we done differently with the vocals there? Like, what kind of effect is that? Bit of a delay on it and stuff like that. That's kind of cool for an outro. This track, Ugly, at 6 minutes, I think it is well fleshed out. I think the slowness of it, the kind of lumbering, the festering self-image issues we have there that we discussed within the verse and chorus and interlude parts there, I suppose. It allows for a track which feels very claustrophobic, especially in the chorus when we've got those own sort of self-doubts and fears circulating with our head and forcing us to kind of scream out. There is a great sort of range of different emotions expressed by the singer, which add a lot of personality to this track. I think the combination of that with the raucous guitar part, especially in the choruses, but also just again the rotary reverb and stuff like that on the effects on the guitar with the bass, which just had a real filthy tone to it. The drums as well, with some of the eighth note movements with the grooves. It's a song where you really were kind of trying to walk your way through a mire. It was dealing with the contradictions that they discussed within, again, the verse parts. It's a track where the production in regards to the leveling and stuff like that, it was raw. It wasn't trying to be super polished or anything like that. I think that we had an aesthetic that we were trying to create here, which is sort of loyal to genres like within like the grunge and like alt rock and stuff like that. Like it's cool. I think that if you tried to clean it up more than this, it would have sounded a little bit too pretty, which is not the point of the track titled Ugly. I don't think it was meant to be sort of a true expression of that situation they were in. I could understand, again, I think it was about sort of self-image and everything like that, and sort of how we feel about ourselves and looking away and trying to sort of accept ourselves, and the situation itself being pretty or so ugly, you know. So it's cool. Well done to the vocalist, Michael, on this. They did a great job. Welcome to Sodia. Well done to Sodia and everything else. We got track number 2 featuring Sodia and Augustin A. Let's do it. So this is a little bit brighter with some de-eyed guitars, I suppose. Could you have potentially mic'd as well as de-eyed the guitar tone here? I just feel having a bit of room miking would have been good as well.
Light up a night sky, a colorful background with the shape of moonlight. is low hanging fruit. See the rising star, wearing and tearing your clothes, destroying with your lips. I want, but I am not a lover.
Great job with the cymbal shimmer there. It was fantastic at that minute mark to have something new come in. The guitar sounded, I'm happy with the guitar tone, and I think that the vocalist, Augustin, can sing quite well. It's just also good to have that extra bit of diversity within a composition, especially for just a sub 4 minute piece.
Free me from this place. Free me. I want to see. Free me from this place. Free.
Is that like a vocal harmony with an organ in the background? Because that vibrato is quite clever and masks it quite well.
I want to see.
I'm wondering if some of those guitar parts are louder than others.
Is this the way you want to see me? Even in that, I cannot escape you. I want to go back in time when I was a freshman, living like a memory. Free me from this place. Free me. I want to see.
It's just a really satisfying loop, especially with the multiple vocals and an organ take coming up.
Free me from this place. Free me. I want to see in my time of need.
Cool. In my time of need. I think that was another solid track that was very different to Ugly. It was a lot softer with the acoustic elements there. It was nice again to have that organ come in the back parts of the vocals within that hook line. It was cool to have the cymbal shimmers occasionally, but to sort of not go directly into a drum focus. Predominantly because I think this was meant to be more kind of hearing the person out in their moment of vulnerability, the time of need. They don't necessarily have the power in that situation. So it makes sense for the situation they're in compositionally to not be too powerful. It makes sense for the music not to be too powerful, to be kind of sort of like fragile sounding. I suppose they talk about wanting to go back in time and everything like that. So I think maybe they're wanting to go back to simpler times, and at this point they just really regret it and just need someone to free them from the position they're in. I wonder if it's related to Ugly, the Grey Sea. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this album pans out, but at the moment I think that this is another great song where we have a singer, Augustin, who clearly has solid vocal technique. They're very comfortable in their head and chest voice. The range is satisfying and the tone is satisfying to listen to. I think that some of the guitar parts, I'm not entirely sure if they were leveled absolutely the way that we needed them to be. It sounded like some parts were louder than others, but then it could just be that we had a phenomenal amount of dynamic range like we did with Ugly, where the distorted guitar parts came in, just boom, kind of like slashed at you a little bit. I think that it's definitely promising I think that this does work with Ugly in the context of an album. It'd be cool to hear the broader concept. But again, I think it's basically 2 for 2. It's also as a closing comment before we move on. I think it's fantastic that we are trying to work with other singers and songwriters and musicians. It can be good to expand our horizons a little bit to work. I'm not saying that Sodia or Sammy hasn't worked with other people before, but it's just more that like it's just nice that we're including other people in it to kind of get the most and sort of stick to our strengths potentially and stuff. It's nice. But yeah, we got Breaking My World with Sodia as well as Tommy Temp. So let's go. Track number 3 for today. It's quite a short one. It slaps actually. It's quite satisfying. Switching up the tempo. See, that's kind of cool. I like when people are comfortable enough to sort of separate themselves from the pre-existing motif and to move into a new section. It just makes a composition more interesting when you switch it up like that, if it works. That guitar riff is menacing though, isn't it? I'm not sure if I'm getting all the words through clearly. Some of the vocal processing stuff like that is making it a little bit difficult to discern them. Hell of a lead guitar tone though. Stop spewing garbage, grow up. So like, is this one Breaking My World about people who are causing issues or causing mischief, and they're breaking my world and they're causing problems for everyone else? I think that last verse there with the grow up part, you kind of get the impression that they're having a conversation with someone who is not necessarily as responsible as they need to be in order to potentially even exist. It's nice and authoritative. I mean, at 2 minutes 25, it's a short track there. The guitars and bass and drums are aggressive enough. The toms, the dun 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 dun, kind of almost sound like a war chant or a military kind of like drum beat. And it just kind of, you just feel like you're hyping yourself up for something. Like when the chorus comes in, and again, much like Ugly, you build and that's an increased extra amount of intensity to that chorus. Again, allowing for dynamic range, but also that guitar solo where we just kicked it up another notch again. I thought it was really well handled. I liked the production more in this one. I think that this was a nice balance between having a raw sort of organic feel and also having things kind of palatable and like balanced neatly in a way where I could kind of hear everything clearly. I think my comments about not necessarily getting all the words through clearly are more related to the fact that I think simply some of the vocal processing itself kind of obfuscates it a little bit. With that in mind, though, I think that still I understand why they were doing it. I can definitely hear Alice in Chains within this. I think that ultimately this is a nice, well-written track that's it's really well sequenced. The structuring is tight there. The transitions are smooth. There's no intro core. I think this is where Sodia excels. With that said, I think Ugly and In My Time I Need were strong tracks, albeit with In My Time I Need being in that sub 4 4 minutes part, but I think we can get any track of any length to work at this stage, and I appreciate we have that sort of diversity within, again, the upcoming album, The Grey Sea, so that should be good to listen to. I'm going to talk about this album more in the conclusion. All right, shout out to Tommy Temp as well for the fantastic vocals on this. I think that, going into a head voice there as well for the chorus, and then the kind of sort of talked bits with this modulation and stuff. It was a nice contrast between those two styles, so well done. Yeah, welcome to the conclusion of my review of these tracks from an act named Sodia off of the upcoming album titled The Grey Sea. I should note that we had other vocalists featured such as Michael Orenink, as well as Augustin A, and Tommy Temp. And I want to sort of congratulate all three vocalists on their work within these tracks. I thought they all did very well. Just as an opening statement, I thought it was very well handled. And I have no complaints really about the vocals whatsoever. We chose great singers and performance, I think, to lead these tracks. It's really, what are the tracks about? I mean, I spoke about them in the individual track sections themselves. I think Ugly is about someone dealing with self-image issues and sort of like trying to come to terms with who they are in the situation, and the pretty versus the ugly situation, etc. And you know, they talk about wanting the person to look away. It's kind of brutal. I think for people that have dealt with sort of like those kind of things before in their own life, they might have a bit of a rough time listening to it. Not that it's a bad track to listen to, but it's very real. It's very raw. It's very kind of like heavy stuff that we're dealing with. But I think that's important for music. If it's light and fluffy, it isn't always going to have the same effect, right? Music doesn't need to always be nice all the time. In my time of need, I think that it's about someone who like is in a situation where they wish they made different decisions previously, and they're now in a position where they're very vulnerable. They need someone to kind of help them out and get them out of a situation. And then Breaking My World is about like people who sort of cause damage to the world around them outside and kind of cause mischief and are rambunctious little rapscallions, and they need to kind of get put down a notch and told to grow up. You have these tracks combined in a Grey Sea, which I think is talking about the nuances of the situations that Sodia is dealing with, perhaps both in their life and outside of it. And I think that it's just fantastic that we're trying to have this conversation with the listener. It helps us to get to know Sodia better, as well as to just appreciate the stories that are being told. So well done with the lyrics. I think they're well handled. I understood the tracks. I think, again, I've talked about the singers. They've all got great vocals in it. They are different and distinct. Not massively distinct, but there's enough of a variety there to kind of tell who is who, and I think that they stuck to their strengths there and performed very well across the board there. There's no complaints whatsoever about the vocals. We nailed it. We were emotively appropriate. We were well present in the mix. The notes were hit nice and cleanly as well. Whether it was the spoken parts or the sung parts in head and chest voice, it was very, very good. Some of the harmonies as well we had were fantastic, very sort of flavorful, and I appreciate that he was messed with some fourths or something like that as well at certain points. They're unconventional harmonies just to add that kind of specific effect for the genre related. I think that the way that the tracks were structured, well, it varied. Ugly was a longer track at almost 6 minutes. Ugly was various verse and chorus sections. We were very comfortable with the instrumental sort of like backing in that track there. We had a solo section as well. We took our time with sort of fleshing things out in that one. I think we had more of a story to tell in that one, so we needed to do a bit of repetition there. It was vocal focused for a lot of it, but we had strong backing from the guitars, bass, and drums. In My Time of Need, that was an interesting one. That was more sort of acoustic focus there. We had sort of strummed acoustics there with an occasional sort of backing vocals and like an organy kind of vibrato thing going on in the hook sections behind certain words. So that was pretty hip. That was great, actually. I really appreciate the unison there. Add a bit more oomph to it. And I should note that like the performance is very dynamic. They were not the same loudness the entire time, partly due to post-production, but also partly due to the layering of the instruments. Those hooks really smacked, man. They smashed. It was great. Breaking My World, a shorter one at 2 minutes 25, had sort of, again, the verses and choruses, a solo section. It was just very, very quick. It flew by. It was like a piece of candy, man. It was very satisfying to listen to. I appreciate, even though they knew they were going through stuff and they clearly were unhappy with what was going on with people and behavior, it was still an interesting track to listen to, and I had a great time with it. So I think what we've got structurally is a musician who can do the longer form, do the mid, and do the shorter range, and make compelling pieces of music regardless. I talk about a few of my favorite instruments across this album. I think that the guitar was one of the sort of stronger elements here, whether it was the sort of strummed kind of the acoustic stuff in My Time of Need, or like the distorted parts, or the rotary reverb and other elements of like Ugly and Breaking My World, I think we had enough variation between the different picked and strummed motifs there with the power chords and some of the chorus sections with the shreddy kind of solo pentatonic kind of bluesy stuff, with lots of bends and little bits of fancy stuff going on, especially like in Break My World. But also like, across the board, that guy could just really play the strings, and we really understood what was appropriate, both in regards harmonically for the pieces and the lyrics we're trying to convey, as well as what suited the singer, but also we could eloquently communicate with our lead guitar an alternate lead passage that made sense within the piece. So that was good, and also suited the mood, which is not necessarily an easy thing to do regardless of tone. It's not an easy genre to solo over. You've got to find a way to not overdo it, but also like we handled it very, very well. I think that the bass was relatively, it wasn't subtle, like you could feel it, but it also wasn't trying to poke its nose out too much. It was there to sort of support the harmonies in the low end, and it did the job very, very well. The drums were kind of sick, man. We had some interesting eighth and quarter note grooves there. Not all the time. Like in My Time of Need was just simple shimmers, but like we had sort of more sort of like established elaborate patterns in some of Ugly as well as Breaking My World. And I appreciate the fact that we had different drum beats and that they segged between each other really wonderfully, and there were no awkward pauses or stumbles. We were in time with the drums. We had a good control over the kit, and we had dynamic range to it. You know, we didn't just do everything the same loudness there. We were changing things up as appropriate. It was cool. I liked some of the tom fills, in particular. We had Breaking My World and some like the verse parts. I liked how we were more than comfortable to go full crash cymbals and stuff in the hooks. I think just like a notable mention as well, again, it's just the organ or like the vibrato thing that we had in My Time on Need. I just thought, again, it synced up nicely with behind the vocals, and I think that it was fantastic to have that extra bit of kind of resonance there to kind of spice things up in a way that was very positive and pleasant. I think like thematically, it was either, again, sort of showing a bit of sort of vulnerability and sort of like a cry for help in My Time of Need with the different chord progressions we had there, where things were a bit sad, but not too like aggressive necessarily. With Ugly and Break My World, it was a bit more caustic, and we chose some interesting harmonies vocally as well as the minor triads and some maybe some like Phrygians or like Phrygian modes there, with flat seconds for the harmonies and melodies there. I think a lot of it was noise, and it was the atmosphere that the guitars were creating with the distortion there and how things kind of flowed, and it was reverb tails and everything like that, and it was very kind of like spicy sounding in certain parts there. And I think that what that did was kind of not only give the mood, the ambience of the genre of like grunge and stuff like that incredibly well in hard rock, but it also it was unabashedly committed to the bit. And I think that we were really sort of like comfortable with trying to choose chords and like establish variation with the percussion and articulate off of the main when need be in a way where we didn't take too away from the story, we added to it. So I think that the instrumental performance in general is indicative of a musician simply knowing how to compose. They have a great understanding of it at this point, and they're very comfortable with what they're trying to accomplish here, and I thought that things were quite nice and tight overall with not a note out of place. I think that, and I say that knowing it's like a live performance, like they clearly recorded those. They weren't trying to sort of like quantize it or anything like that. It's just great to hear musicians play their instruments. I sound like such a boomer, but it's true. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering, it wasn't like, well, I'm going to say this, and I mean it in the best of ways. It wasn't like a perfect, like you can tell they weren't trying to make it absolutely pristine perfect. It was very good. I liked the leveling of the tracks. I thought there was a phenomenal amount of dynamic range. Things were not the same loudness all the time. There was a difference between the verses and choruses. Things were allowed to breathe. Things were allowed to go up. I have no complaints about the way it was mixed. What I'm trying to communicate is that they were trying to add an aesthetic that was similar to the kind of like griminess and kind of like grittiness of those early 90s, kind of late 80s, early 90s recordings there, where things, it was rough and kind of ready to rumble, you know, like we weren't trying to prettify it or, you know, like in My Time of Need was potentially a little bit more kind of like light balance. So trying to sort of like be a little bit like kind of like less aggressive with that. And then to be fair, Breaking My World did sound a little bit tighter mix wise than Ugly, but I think that's just development and growth, and I think ultimately these tracks are ready for release. It's just you have songs that feel like they're alive. Things are nice and wide in the stereo field. it surrounds you. The guitar level, those double track guitars are not totally even, but that just kind of makes it seem more real because things kind of follow you around. And then, oh, they're here now. Oh, things in the center. Oh, they're going to the sides now. Well, I can understand from a production perspective what they're trying to accomplish here. And I think that if they had tried to sort of like, if they'd hesitated and like overcomplicated it, it would have ruined the vibe of the track. I think that we did what we needed to at the song. I mean, like the vocals sounded nice and tight there. We were present in the mix. And we had a great sense of like awareness of like avoiding resonant frequencies there. It was still nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. I mean, effectively, this is just my review of these tracks from an act named Sodia, titled Ugly in My Time of Need, and Breaking My World off of the upcoming The Grey Sea album, which is their second album and is going to be released on the 21st of June. And hopefully you enjoyed this music. If you did, please go show Sodia some love via their various social medias and Spotify page. And stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.